Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to stage Scot Wingo, CEO of ChannelAdvisor.
Welcome to Las Vegas, everybody. Everyone having fun? All right, raise your hand if you're up. Raise your hand if you're down. All right, some honest folks here. The more you gamble, the more chance you have of coming back, so don't despair yet. So this is our first year in Las Vegas. What do you guys think? All right. Thanks. Well, if you've been to a Catalyst before, we've doubled the size of it, so that's an indication that it's relatively popular. We have a lot more folks from the West Coast, which we appreciate. Tonight I want to thank all of our sponsors. Let's give them all a round of applause. It wouldn't be possible without them. And in your seat, you should have found some nice things from the folks at Newegg. I'm going to be talking a lot about Newegg today, and they have some big announcements that we'll go through. We have a lot to cover tonight, so I'm going to jump on into it. So first of all, we spent a lot of time at ChannelAdvisor thinking about where are we in the e-commerce adoption cycle. Are we still early? Are we in the middle of it? Or are we about at the peak? One way we look at that is the percentage of overall sales that are online. And this is a ComScore data point. And if you look back to 2004, about 4% of sales overall were online. And then as we went through 2011, towards the end there, we got up as high as 8%. That's pretty good. It's a doubling over a 7-year period, but 8% still feels pretty light. If you look at folks that have really adopted online buying, you know, I know personally I'm up more kind of in the 10, 20, maybe even at certain times like the holiday, 30 or 40%. So that makes it feel like we're in the early days. And so one thing we've noticed is in the last year, something pretty profound has happened that hasn't gotten a lot of attention in the press that we wanted to talk about today. So first of all, a lot of the pundits that are out there, the folks that predict e-commerce growth, they said, all right, from 2011, we've gone through this period before 2011 of kind of hyper growth in the early days of e-commerce, and then we had the recession, and now we expect that we'll kind of level out at 15% here in the US from 2012 forward. But what's funny is we're already exceeding that. In February, e-commerce growth came in at 18%. When we look at our data in March, we saw another acceleration. So we're kind of sitting there thinking, you know, what is this unusual behavior? Why are we growing above 15%? And what we think at ChannelAdvisor is the pundits have missed something very important. And there's 4 waves of innovation we want to talk about tonight that we believe are going to really increase the growth of e-commerce at levels we haven't seen even back to the old days. So the way I think about it is, think of us, we're all on this rising tide of e-commerce, of just this normal adoption curve, and these waves are layering on top of that and going to accelerate it. The first wave is Amazon, and Amazon's interesting because it's directly impacting e-commerce and indirectly impacting e-commerce. It's impacting it directly by being large and growing and having a marketplace where many of you guys sell. Raise your hand if you actively sell as a third-party merchant on Amazon. Great. Incidentally, one of the reasons we did move here to Las Vegas is we got a lot of the Amazon services folks were able to come, and we have tons of content from them. Put a little plug in. Tomorrow I'm going to have a fireside chat with Sebastian Gunningham at 8:30, so don't stay up too late or stay up all night. So you got to kind of pick one or the other. So what's interesting about Amazon is, they have a direct impact by growing and growing rapidly. And on this chart, you can see Amazon's growing at 34% year over year, while e-commerce is growing at about 15%, and retail sales are relatively flat at kind of 2 or 3%. So think of Amazon as growing 2 to 3 times as fast as e-commerce. But the amount of investment they're making in fulfillment, data center, devices like Kindle, Kindle Fire, and international is amazing. And when you really peel the onion on this growth rate, what you see is in this chart that we have here, EGM stands for electronics and general merchandise. It's the non-media part of Amazon. That's actually growing at about 50%. So again, if you think about e-commerce at 15, EGM at 50, they're going at 3 to 4x of e-commerce. Most of our customers and partners that are on the third-party marketplace, that's the bucket that you're in, and hopefully you're experiencing that level of growth. One of the other interesting things is the amount of investment Amazon's making is staggering. It's hard to get your head around. So for example, they've already announced this year, in what is it, April, they've already announced 10 million square feet of fulfillment space. That's hard to get your head around. So what we've done is, how many of you have ever shopped at a Costco before, or a warehouse club? Those are big, right? So this is a chart that kind of takes that and boils it down to the number of Costcos that Amazon's building out. So kind of taking the square footage you're familiar with, and this is the fulfillment capacity. And look at this pace of acceleration here. This is 2002, they built 3 equivalents of Costcos, 2.5, 2003. If you go back and look, they've built about 90 Costcos between 2002 and 2009. That's a lot of Costcos, but you can kind of get your head around it. From 2010 to 2016, they're going to build another 500 Costcos. Most of those have already been announced and construction is underway. So that's a lot of Costcos. Costco itself has 590 Costcos. So, anyone here from Costco? When we look at it at ChannelAdvisor, I think we're one of the few folks that forecast this out this far. We think Amazon has a shot at being a $200 billion online retailer by 2017. And what's interesting is when Amazon reports third-party sales, they only take their fees into consideration in that number. So it's actually underrepresenting the amount of impact, which we call GMV, or gross merchandise value, that Amazon is having. Just to give you an idea, Walmart today is a $400 billion retailer. Half of that's grocery. So if you look non-grocery Walmart to Amazon, Amazon in 2017 will catch up where Walmart is today. Now, obviously Walmart will keep growing and whatnot, but we're coming down, I'll show you a chart here in a minute, we're coming down to kind of a 2-horse race on the scale of this thing. Another thing to think through is today Amazon has 40 fulfillment centers across 20 states. When you think about what it would take to be $200 billion, that means that we think they'll have about 120 to 150 fulfillment centers by 2017. And think about all those Costco equivalents that they're building. So when you have that kind of a distribution footprint, you start to ask questions like, everyone's probably familiar with Amazon Prime, where you spend about $80 and you get free 2-day shipping. What if you get free next-day shipping? What if you get free same-day shipping from most geographies? The footprint that Amazon is creating out there is going to really allow them to elevate that consumer experience to levels we can't even really imagine today. And you start to think, what if Amazon opened up showrooms? They've actually got a patent that they've published on an actual Amazon showroom. I've got a picture of it, they'll throw the slides up here. And so what if you had these little Amazon stores, almost like Apple stores, where you go in and find the top selling products on Amazon inside of these physical stores. You could go try on the jeans in there or whatever you want to do. Maybe it scans your body and knows your size. What if Amazon's rumored to be coming out with a smartphone? There's a lot of rumors about more Kindles. When you have 150 fulfillment centers, why do you need to use UPS and FedEx? Maybe you have your own fulfillment kind of company at that point. So it's interesting to think through, what does all this mean for us? That's the direct impact. The other direct impact is they're really starting to grow past traditional retailers. Here, let's see, what color would that be? Purplish line, the line that's up and to the right the most, is Amazon. And you can see they've already passed Sears, Lowe's and Best Buy on their sites, Home Depot, Target. And then the only 2 retailers, traditional retailers that are larger, are Costco. Walmart's not on here. Imagine a line at $200 billion that Amazon isn't really quite getting up to yet, but we think by 2017, if you extended this a couple years, they'd be getting relatively close. So the ripple effect. So consumers love Amazon and they love the experience. They love going to one place, getting massive selection, one consistent buying experience. And what's happening is other retailers globally and other channels are having to react to that and build their own third-party marketplaces. So in the last 18 months, we've seen an explosion of online marketplaces. Barnes & Noble has one, Best Buy, Tesco in the UK, Walmart. There's a lot of niche marketplaces like One Stop Plus. That's an apparel for plus sizes. Trade Me, who are our friends out of New Zealand, That's a kiwi, in case you don't know what a kiwi is. You can Google that later. Sears. So what we've seen, and we think this is actually just the first wave of this, because Amazon has set the bar up here. Think about it. When you go to Groupon to buy something, Groupon Goods is a liquidation market. It's essentially a marketplace. So they've had to elevate to that level. We think at some point maybe even Google will have to have a marketplace, or Yahoo, or any of these places you go to buy things. Because Amazon has set the bar here, the other experience feels so inferior that they'll have this indirect impact by creating more and more marketplaces. And so we kind of have believed this for a long time, and we're really starting to see it play out and accelerate. You can look at Amazon's numbers. A lot of people ask, and we'll talk to Sebastian about this, is Amazon a friend or foe? And Amazon's third-party marketplace is growing at 65%. So remember, e-commerce is growing at 15%. Amazon's third-party marketplace is growing at 65% year over year. And that's largely due to partners like yourselves. It's growing substantially faster than what they call their retail or first-party business at 37%. Some people ask me, should I partner with Amazon? I feel like they're a competitor. Well, this really says that what Amazon's doing is they're actually kind of investing less in first party and more in third party over time, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people don't feel like it's the inverse. Said another way, if Amazon's trying to put you out of business, they're actually doing a pretty terrible job at it, if you look at it this way. The second wave is mobile and local. Now, there's tons of content on this, and I'll just go through this quickly. I think we all are really starting to buy into this. It's kind of finally really here. And what we think about is the use cases. It's funny, when mobile first came out, everyone came out with an app, right? You had to be a retailer, and people were investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in apps. But that's actually not the exact use case that we've seen happening. The number one use case we saw this holiday was what's called showrooming. Has everyone heard of this new phrase? What happens is you are a consumer, you go into the store, you go to Best Buy, you talk to the sales guy, you look at all the TVs, you like this one, LG, you scan the box, and you order it from somewhere else, right? The Best Buy people love it when you do that. So that's called showrooming, and this actually was first phrased in kind of a January timeframe, and since then, in the last 4 months, you see it everywhere, and retailers are doing drastic things. So for example, Target sent a note to all their manufacturers saying, you have to take one of these 4 actions to continue to work with us. Give us a unique SKU that no one else has. In other words, obfuscate the barcode so it's not showroomable. Give us map pricing, enforce your pricing across all channels. Give us unique products no one else has, period. Things like that. So you're seeing retailers have a very adverse and immediate reaction to this, and it's really causing a dramatic impact. And that's because a lot of consumers are doing it. The other one is local inventory awareness. So a lot of retailers that do have brick and mortars, they would love for you to be able to instantly look at the availability of inventory. It's not quite there yet. You have some things like Milo and Google and other things like that. But they very much see that as a way of counteracting this showrooming, of factoring in the immediacy. If you're looking for a size 12 shoe, find it immediately a mile away, kind of a thing. The other one's geo-targeting. This is interesting. There's a lot of companies here where you're like a Foursquare, so using check-ins and things like that to do targeted offers. We think that's going to be an interesting use case. Mobile payments is a huge growing area that we think about a lot at ChannelAdvisor, because we think if consumers start getting used to paying with a certain way on their mobile device, that will ripple to online as well, and we all need to be very aware of it. The other thing that you see is our usage is going up. Because we're online constantly, we're just using the internet more. So the amount of time people are spending is really dramatically going up. And finally, what we've seen at ChannelAdvisor that hasn't gotten a ton of press is, when we look at the holiday data, we did a lot of blogging on this if you want to check it out. We look at smartphones versus tablets and don't just lump them into mobile, actually split them out. Smartphones are very transactional. So people will go, they'll price check something and buy something, or they'll very quickly check in somewhere or look up something very quickly. So you see very short sessions, very kind of transactional. I need to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And then tablets are the exact opposite. So much longer sessions than actual PCs, more in the evenings. So people are sitting there watching TV now. They have their iPad out or their Kindle Fire, and they're shopping along. They may see an outfit they like, and they browse it or whatnot, or they're checking another score while they're watching one game. They're looking at another. And that's called couch commerce, where you're actually kind of buying stuff while you're just chilling out on the couch. And so that's very much incremental activity too. When we look at the data, it's not like people are saying, I'm going to walk away from my PC now and go over to my tablet. They're still using their PCs at this normal time, and now they've really stretched the amount of time they're online by using that TV couch time to also be on their tablet. This is my favorite chart about mobile. By 2015, there'll be 3 to 4 times as many people that access the internet through devices than through PCs and notebooks. So Another one that's interesting is I mentioned that a lot of folks kind of had this app kind of thing where they came up with millions of apps. And as a user, I think everyone realizes that it's hard to have 50 apps on your phone and use them all. You kind of gravitate to a set of 10 or 20. Well, this chart shows the year-over-year traffic difference from mobile for top retailers. Look at Amazon. So Amazon had 4 million a year ago, unique users, and now it's 14 million, so a 3x. That's showrooming right there. Then you see eBay, Walmart, Target, JCPenney, then it falls off dramatically. That's because if you're a consumer, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm in CVS, let me go to the page 6 to my CVS app and do that. It's much more handy to have an aggregated app that has everything you want to do online, a barcode scanner, product information, things like that. So we see that what's interesting is more and more of the traffic is going to these aggregation points, which kind of ties into my first wave as well. What's the impact of showrooming? Well, Best Buy recently, the CEO is doing some nefarious stuff. He's probably out here in Las Vegas, I don't know, or spends a lot of time here. But anyway, they're actually having to close 50 stores because of this impact of showrooming. It has really had a dramatic impact on them. And that's the stock price, you can see, has not reacted very well to that. When we look at holiday, I think we'll look back on holiday 2011, consumers really adopted the mobile devices. And you see it when you have $4 or $5 gas, who wants to drive around to 6 places looking for, the thing that you're trying to buy? So just being able to look at it online and buy it using your phone or tablet is essentially doubled last holiday. The third wave is social, and there's been a lot of press against social that I think it was probably warranted for that very specific use of social, but we still very fundamentally believe at ChannelAdvisor that 900 million people can't be wrong. If they're using social networks, commerce will come to social networks. And it already is in a way, and I'll talk about that. So Facebook is the Mac Daddy of social networks at 900 million users. One thing we do at ChannelAdvisor is we track on a blog called FacebookCommerceStrategies.com. We track the number of retailers and every one of their fans and track that over time. And you can see that we have over about 275 million fans in aggregate of the retailers that we track at ChannelAdvisor alone. So there's a lot of activity out there. And these folks, if you go to some of these pages, they're very active. They're engaging in sales, they're talking about products, they're asking customer service questions, they're really engaged with these brands. And think about Groupon. Regardless of where you fall on, if you think Groupon is a sustainable business or not, it's a $4 billion business that was built literally in 2 years on the backbone of social. So what social has given us is, think of it as this foundation that allows us to have these very viral, created things pop up out of nowhere. Another example is Pinterest. How many of you are on Pinterest? Okay, if you're not on Pinterest and you're a retailer, you need to start looking at this. So Pinterest is the fastest growing site to ever get to 10 million users in history. And again, it's on this foundation or this backbone of social. And really what it is a very simple way of sharing pictures, but it's got this relatively sophisticated ability of sharing, and it leverages Facebook and Twitter to pull other people in. And it's most of what gets shared on here is products. So this is a good example. I think Pinterest has a very high potential of growing into a potential channel for retailers. In fact, since we've been following it, I wrote an article on this in January, and I could find 5 retailers that were really active on Pinterest. And now I think we're up to like 500 or 600 retailers that have created Pinterest boards. They're actively on there, they're engaged, they're using that Pinterest community, they're putting pins on their site so that people can pin it from their e-commerce site over to Pinterest. This wasn't, if we had had Catalyst 5 months ago, I would not have a slide on Pinterest. I wouldn't have even known what it was. So this is how fast social can create these new opportunities for us. It's very exciting. The fourth wave, and almost most important, is what's going on globally. The planet is just getting smaller. So it's a lot easier now to ship to Europe and back and forth than it ever was. It's also getting easier to ship to China, believe it or not. It's interesting, we're entrepreneurial and always trying to sell things, and we have an office in Australia, and that office in the last 18 months has been overrun with demand from China, and we literally do everything we can not to sell to these people. They'll call us and say, I want to use ChannelAdvisor, and we say, we haven't translated the software, and they say, we don't care, we speak English, and then we say, we don't support any of the Chinese marketplaces like Taobao or 360buy, and they say, we don't care, we want to sell everywhere else, we want to export from China. So we're saying, okay, we'll send you a contract, and oh, we have to bill you in US dollars. And they're like, that's okay too, we don't care. So So we're scratching our heads saying, like, we should sell more of this like this more often. This is great. So we're moving everything to China. No. But what's exciting about that is they view this market, they want to sell from China, and they want to sell into Australia, all the European countries, all the US markets, and even Latin America. So if you look at this chart, this is the 2011 data. And there's a lot of data on here, and we make all these available after, so don't break a sweat. But what you see over here is look at Asia Pacific, and this is largely driven by China. So it's 165 billion today. Europe is the largest at 278. US is second, and then we have Asia Pac. By 2017, Asia Pac will be the largest market out there, largely driven by China. They already have more online users than we do in the US. And they have a population that's, what, 10x? So this is gonna be a very huge market that everyone needs to pay attention to. Another one that's very interesting is Latin America. So it will also get to be the size, by 2017, it'll be the size that the US is today. So a very large market, love American goods, want to also export. So the world is going to be increasingly global, where if you're not thinking about definitely Europe and starting to think about Asia Pac and Latin America, those are places that we all need to be and understand how to do business there, because they're going to be an increasingly large part of e-commerce going forward. So we have these 4 waves of innovation happening, and what does that mean? Well, the pundits have kind of cleverly raised their targets, so you start to see the articles saying, well, now we're thinking about 20% growth for this year forward. But we think what happens is that these layer on top of there. Now, this is over kind of a long period of time. This is essentially 8 years, but even if you think about just 2 years, we think that we're going to enter this really kind of glowing, this golden period of e-commerce, where these things are going to raise the growth rate up north of 20%. We have 40% here. Who knows where it will be? I know it's going to be north of 20%. So when you think of layering on mobile, social, local, the Amazon raising the bar, and the global things going on, this is a great time to be in e-commerce. So we think we're still very much in the early days. These waves are going to really kind of cause disruption like has never happened before, and it's going to be good for everyone in this room. The question that everyone asks us, though, is how do I keep up with all this change? So here's the world today and kind of historically. In the early days, you kind of had to have a website, which is the blue is direct traffic, and then you kind of added in search, and then you started doing comparison shopping engines. Then now recently you've started to think about local and social and things like that. So it's kind of manageable, right? You can get your head around that. Well, this is what the future looks like. The number of places you need to think about. Cross-border trade is just a simple little blurb on here. But there's a lot of complexity inside of there. What are you doing about China? What about Japan, Singapore, Canada, Latin America, Europe? So there's a lot of complexity coming. And here's another way of thinking about it. We think about e-commerce channels at ChannelAdvisor all the time. So up to now, you maybe had to deal with 15 to 20 e-commerce channels, and you kind of added a couple every year, so you were able to kind of keep that and manage it. Going forward, you're going to have to add probably 40. So now it's going to be like 60 that you're dealing with. And then if you want to start to go global, every one of these regions has its own comparison shopping, different search engine characteristics, different marketplaces, and channels that are unique to different ways that we don't even sell things here today. So for example, in Latin America, a very common way to buy things is this kind of hybrid escrow model where people pay on layaway plans, but they get the product immediately. So there's that. And there's a whole payment system around that. In China, PayPal is not dominant, it's Alipay. So you have all these different complexities and all these things that you're going to have to deal with going forward. So just to give you an update at ChannelAdvisor, we view it as our role as your partner to keep in front of this for you. So I want to tell you a couple things that we're doing in that regard. So our mission is to connect you to as many points of demand as possible globally. So if you're a customer of ours and you want to start selling in the UK, we can pick up the phone and call our UK team and have you up and running as quickly as possible. We have about 300 employees. We're in 3 continents, soon to be 4. We have over 3,000 customers and manage over $3.5 billion in sales through our software. And here's our global footprint. So today in the US, we have an office in Seattle, headquarters is in North Carolina, and then we have an office in New York, and then we're in Las Vegas right now. We're actually opening an office in Brazil or Argentina. We're still working on that. In Latin America this year, so that'll give us kind of our next continent. We have several offices in Europe already, and an office in Australia I mentioned as well. Probably by the end of the year, but definitely by next year we'll have an office in China as well. So we have retailers across the globe that reach consumers at an even kind of broader scale. There's a couple that you can't see, like we've got a couple in South Africa down there. Good day. To help keep up with all this change, today we're announcing 3 new solutions. So number 1 is called Flex Feeds. We'll get this request from, this is an exact quote, we didn't want to attribute it without permission, but every time you want to add something to your business, it requires a data feed. So you want to do retargeting, you want to add a new supply vendor, you want to, a lot of companies actually, Department A and Department B need to send data feeds back and forth to each other internally, but their IT resources are so constrained, you get these backlogs of data feeds. Data feeds are kind of unusual because they're pretty basic, but they've become the language of e-commerce. Everyone exchanges product data through data feeds. So they're kind of this underlying language of e-commerce, but they're inherently unstructured, unreliable, and hard to create and hard for your IT staff to maintain. So we've created a product called Flex Feeds that essentially you can, if you have your inventory in ChannelAdvisor, within literally minutes, you can say, oh, I need to create a feed today. It requires these following fields in this way. It needs to be XML. I need to deliver it to this address, and these are the credentials. And I'm going to create that feed, test it, run it, do it, boom, schedule it to run every day, boom, set up. How do you guys think about that? It's funny, ever since we've been working on this and talking to partners, there's a million uses for this. So affiliate, remarketing, personalization. We already have a very robust ecosystem at ChannelAdvisor, and what you're going to see is this is going to explode out the number of partners that we have. And as we create these, we'll start to create libraries as we see common usage. So if we see 8 of you sending a data feed to a common partner, maybe that's helping you with something in Japan or something like that, that's something that we can kind of productize and have available right in the UI without you having to create it every time. The second solution is called Facebook Campaigns. Now again, there's been a lot of negative press about this, and what happened is everyone took their whole store and they just jammed it into a Facebook widget on Facebook, and they were surprised when no one got excited about that. Well, it's kind of silly. It's like, why would I go into this inferior kind of experience when I can just go to the website and have a better experience? There's nothing better about the Facebook kind of wedging a store in. So that's kind of the problem. But people come to us and they say, look, I would love to run a very targeted promotion to my Facebook fans. I want to reward them for being Facebook fans. I want to give them unique products, unique pricing, a deal of the day. There's seasonal promotions. I really want to promote things to them, but I don't want to have to jam my whole store in there. So that's exactly what our Facebook campaign solution does. It allows you, again, if you already have your inventory in ChannelAdvisor, you can literally, in a matter of minutes, create a Facebook campaign that allows you to push very targeted and curated products out to your fan base. So a lot of people never believe me when I say this stuff takes minutes. So we have Link Walls here today, and he's going to do a live demo and show you those 2 products live without a net.
All right.
So we need to get the...
Thanks, Scott. So as you talked about with Flex Feeds, about really being able to create feeds very quickly, and so that's one of the things that we've been working on this. We really want to make this easy for our users so that they can quickly go through, set up a new feed, and be on their way. So you mentioned an example with personalization. So we have an example here. So let's say I'm a retailer and I want to send a feed out to Certona. And they sent me this handy feed specification, tells kind of the data I need to send, and basically from here I need to go ahead and get a feed sent out and created for this. So let me walk you through how that would work. So to start with, I would go into ChannelAdvisor and find my Certona. I've got a little bit of this hang on. Okay, Certona. So from a single place where you'd manage your comparison shopping feeds, you also be able to manage these flex feeds. So the first step would be just to go in and set up the destination, set up the FTP information, where I need to send this feed. That's all kind of details that I'd get from Certona or whoever I want to send this feed out to. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick which inventory I want to send. So in this case, just for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to send all my inventory. But for instance, I may want to only send, maybe I sell shoes and apparel, and I only want to send my shoes to them. I could go in using ChannelAdvisor inventory, filter to just send my shoes to them if that's what's needed. And this is where it gets cool because all of these different sites have different formats, different needs that you need to create. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to make this, as I said, really easy. So to come in, I can go and just paste fields from a spreadsheet. So I can go back to my Certona format that they sent me. And, oops, I deleted this. Copy paste this in. Kind of looks like a mess there, but don't worry about that. And so now I've got all the fields that I need with the descriptions that came with it from Certona. Go ahead and move on. And then the next point is really, the step is I need to go ahead and map this to my ChannelAdvisor inventory. So I have the format that I need, I have the location of where it's going. Now I just need to map it to how my inventory is set up. And I won't go through all of this, but essentially what I'm going to do is just come in here using, anybody who uses ChannelAdvisor, very familiar tools here. I come in and SKU is my SKU, and the description is my description, and maybe I'll add a URL and make sure I send a price because I don't want to send a feed without price in it. And I can preview over here what's going to come out, and obviously I'd take a little bit more time if I was doing this for real. And then I just set up when I want to schedule this feed to go. Do I want to set it at a certain time of day? I'll just send it at noon every day. And at that point, I'm done. So I've got a feed set up. I can preview this and send it to me to take a look at it, one more look at it before I'm ready to go. And at that point, just go ahead and activate it. So at that point, what I've done is I've created a brand new data feed going out to a provider, in this case, Certona, using their format connected to ChannelAdvisor inventory, and it's ready to go. So that's Flex Feeds. So let's shift gears slightly. The other thing Scott talked about was Facebook. And so here's a sample retailer that may be similar to some of you in the audience. So it's a company called Dealsite, and they're on Facebook. They've got their timeline set up. They're trying to do some good stuff on Facebook. And one of the things they're running is right now they're running a very targeted campaign for a specific set of products. So they've kind of heeded Scott's advice, and they've said that we're just going to put products out just that are very specific at any given point in time. So right now they're running a promotion for this new collection of Nike shoes. So it's a new line of Nike shoes. They want to make sure that their Facebook fans know about these products and make sure that they come back and know that this is a new offering that's good that they'd be interested in. Well, the challenge with campaigns like this is that's good, that's all well and good, but then these go stale very quickly, right? As most of you know, managing a marketing calendar takes a lot of work and things go out of style. You got to keep moving, you got to keep trying new things. And so the challenge then is making sure these things are fresh. So let me just show you kind of how I would switch this out. So let's pretend for a minute that back to school is coming up. And so what I want to do is I want to switch this to a back to school campaign. So back in ChannelAdvisor, you'll see there'll be a new social tab at the top here. And this is a list of all my campaigns that I've configured for Facebook. And so a campaign for Facebook really consists of two things in ChannelAdvisor. One is all the look and feel, the artwork, the customization, the colors, the styling. And then the other part is the products themselves. And so those two pieces are what make up a campaign. So I'll just jump into this one for back to school and show you how this will look. So I've got some imagery that I put in. I get a back to school graphic that looks good. So I want to move on to the next piece. And then one of the things we've done, the experience we've gotten from the feedback of retailers we worked with this on in the last really 6 to 9 months, is they really want a lot of flexibility about how they design these pages. For now, I'll keep with a pretty basic one, but there's a lot of customization you could do in here in terms of the layout and the look and feel. And really what we're going for here is to make sure that what was reflected on Facebook is a reflection of your brand and is not just a cookie cutter site that looks just like everybody else's. So I can maybe do a lot of customizations here with what fields I show, how I want to put the text on these buttons, which social extensions I want to show. But for now, that looks about like I want it. So I'll just go ahead and schedule this and preview it. So schedule looks good, and then let me preview and see what this looks like. Another point of feedback we got through the beta for this, we heard, is that people really wanted to see a preview of what this is going to look like ahead of time. right? They weren't comfortable throwing something up on Facebook and not having it look right, not having it, reflect their brand properly, their products. The conversation can get going very fast on Facebook, so you want to be on top of that. So this shows me a preview. So now I've got a back to school image. I'm promoting some cameras, just in time for school. I got my messaging. And so from there, I'm going to go ahead, looks good, and I'll go ahead and submit this and activate it. And by activating this, it's doing a couple of different things behind the scenes. So first of all, because this is connected to my ChannelAdvisor inventory, it's going to go grab the products that I specified. So in this case, I picked a small set. It's going to transform those based on any business rules or other logic that I've set up in the system. And then it's going to go tear down my old Facebook campaign out on Facebook and then push this new one up. So we should be good. And let's go hit the magic F5. And I'm now back to school and I'm ready to go. So I've moved on from one campaign to another and ready to rock and roll back to school.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Lane.
Thanks, Scott.
So that's two. Earlier I talked about all the explosion of third-party marketplaces that's happening, largely driven by Amazon's success. So we could go to the slides, that'd be great. There, yep. That's the screenshot. Slides, there. So we get requests from folks in the room here that say, I'm really excited about Marketplace X and I'd like ChannelAdvisor to add support to it. And then we go to the engineering team and we had a platform that essentially would take 9 people about 10 months to add a new marketplace. So it had to be a huge opportunity for us to take advantage of it at ChannelAdvisor. And we get feedback from customers, that's frustrating. I want my products in as many places as possible. Why can't you add new channels faster? So we've had an engineering team really kind of churning away at this problem. It's pretty hard. And what we've done is we've gotten it down to a fractional amount of time and effort that versus kind of 90 man months that we had before. So what you're going to see is today, we're announcing an expansion of third-party marketplaces. And it's an expansion today, and I think it'll become an explosion because of the platform that these guys have built. So, the problem that we're solving is you guys want all this incremental inventory, you want to be on all these marketplaces, there's a bunch of niche ones, international, you want to be wherever, and we want you to be there, but it used to take a lot of effort on our side, and you can't do it yourself because the IT effort on your side is very high. So today we're announcing this new platform, and we have 2 marketplaces we're launching today, Newegg and Sears, full support. Coming soon, we have Trade Me in New Zealand for all the Kiwi fans. One Stop Plus, Shop.com, Best Buy, and we actually have a bunch of other folks teed up that we can't announce yet. We don't want to steal any thunder, but you could probably guess who some of them are. And that's going to be really exciting because what we're going to do is this will be relatively easy for you within ChannelAdvisor to set up. If you're already using our marketplace module, you go in and you can kind of turn this on from a self-service capacity. We have launch teams that can help you, or if you want to use a managed service, we can do it for you entirely. So also, it's just, you already own it. If you're already using us for marketplaces, this is just another marketplace that you turn on. It's part of your existing relationship with ChannelAdvisor. It's just more GMV that flows to our existing relationship. So we're really excited about that. Newegg today also announced a whole kind of revamp of their marketplace. They've got very aggressive pricing, and they're having some informational sessions that I'm sure they would love to talk to you a lot of guys about that marketplace. So let's, we have a lot of our engineers here. If you guys could, the engineering team at ChannelAdvisor and PMs, if you guys could stand up. These guys have been working their butts off for the last 6 months to do this for you guys. So let's give them a round of applause. They're always shy too. Engineers are shy. Stand up, guys. Thanks. So some people say, why should I be in all these marketplaces? And this is a really good example. Consumers are going to shop where they're going to shop. And if your product's, it's a zero-sum game. If your product's not there, you're not going to sell it, period. It's kind of like the whole baseball adage, you're going to miss everything you don't swing at. So here is an example of Tool King. They've been a really active beta customer for us. And in the middle, at the top, in the middle, you see their website. And this is a DeWalt drill for all you home improvement people out there, weekend warriors. And they've taken that DeWalt drill and they've got it on Newegg, Amazon, Sears, eBay, and Buy.com. Amazon has 160 million active buyers. eBay has over 100 million active buyers. Buy.com has tens of millions of active buyers. Newegg has tens of millions. Sears obviously is well known for home improvement, and they have tens of millions of active buyers. So, when you add it all up, it's actually larger than the internet audience, but that's what you want. You want people to be sick and tired of seeing your drill because it's everywhere. You don't want them not to be able to find your products. Another reason this matters, and I did a fun experiment here I'll walk you through, is search still drives about 40% of e-commerce. And if you're just selling on your site alone, you have really one opportunity to be in search. Think of it as shelf space on the Google page. So I took this same drill and I did a Google search for it. And I actually did this after it was a good experiment because I just picked the drill because I knew it was on all the marketplaces. And then I did a Google search for it. So it was kind of a random pick of a SKU. And there's 23 results on the first page of Google. No one ever goes to page 2. So that's all that matters. So let's think about it as 23 that matter. 12 of those were sponsored, which is kind of interesting. So 54% of the results were actually you had to pay for them on this page. 10 were organic, and then they had Google Product Search, which is the little Google Shopping icon, which is called One Box in Google speak. And there's 3 mini results in there, but call it 23 results. So 54% had to be paid, 45 were kind of quote-unquote free. Of those links, 13 of them were direct retailers, so people like Tool King, and Tool King was one of them. 6 were marketplaces. 4 were comparison shopping engines. So how to think about this is if you had only gone direct, let's say you had this very, kind of closed-walled mentality, which you don't, obviously, because you wouldn't be here. But let's say you're one of the people that's not here that we can make fun of. And you said, I'm only going to go direct, and that's it. You'd only be using 4% of the available shelf space on this Google result. If you do comparison shopping, that bumps you up to 21% effectively. If you do third-party marketplaces, comparison shopping, and direct, you're essentially you're embedded in 50% of the results on this page. Your product will be what shows up. So that's another reason of doing it is not only do you get the benefit of the exposure to those inherent buyers on all these different channels, but you get added Google exposure as well. And then I have something that shows all the colors, so there you go. That's not all. We also have our spring release, which just launched, and there's so much in there we can't go into it. We have a bunch of sessions coming up in the week that talk about this. In addition to all these new channels, we're committed to the existing channels that we're on. So, and it's also important to put some of these things in perspective. You're not going to go on Newegg and Sears and triple your business. They're great marketplaces, but they're not going to triple your business. If they each add 2 to 5%, that's kind of a 10% year-over-year lift. That's worth doing. So make sure you keep those things in perspective. eBay, we've had a ton of innovations there. We just released eBay 360, which gives you a one-page view of everything going on eBay, including your reputation and those kinds of things. A lot of sellers said, eBay's making all these changes of how I ship and do returns, and I hate going out and taking all my listings down and putting them back up. We now have an immediate revise functionality in ChannelAdvisor where if you change those kinds of things, we'll go out and update it in near real time on eBay for you, so you don't have to take listings down and whatnot. In Germany, we support Fitment, and we have complete support for their latest 12.1 release. On Amazon, we've done a ton around enhancing our repricer. Amazon is wildly successful for us here at ChannelAdvisor, and we love working with them. The downside of that is we've had to order a ton of servers to keep up with all the demand. So, and we've done a lot of coding to make sure that our Amazon solution is as rapid as possible. So we're really actually well prepared now for this holiday period. We've done some things when you send Amazon a product and it has some questions of how things match. We've got a whole new way of doing that that's very popular. For Buy.com, we support now their Japanese cross-border trade solution. We've got enhanced validation and error messages. We've sped up that solution. We have a new feed guide for comparison shopping engine. We have a new rich media platform. A lot of folks use our RichFX acquisition product to do their imaging. We have a whole new platform for that that's faster and better. And all of this is alive and available in your ChannelAdvisor accounts today. So go use it, enjoy it, learn more about it. So what's great is, because we've built this platform, and the way it works is once you have your inventory in ChannelAdvisor, we want to help you do whatever you want to do with that inventory. If it's create a new feed based off that inventory, boom, you're going to use flex feeds. If it's do inventory-driven search, we can do that. If it's being on 13 different marketplaces, globally, we can do that. So we take that very seriously today, and we have 3,000 customers, and we support over 200 channels. I want to be on the stage next year telling you it's 400 channels or 600. So we're constantly challenging ourselves. How do we keep raising the number of channels that we can give you access to so you can grow your business? That's fundamentally part of our DNA and what we do here at ChannelAdvisor. So we're committed to doing that. That's our view of e-commerce in the future. and we have a surprise guest here today. These folks are, we could tell a lot of stories, maybe we'll do that at beers tonight, but these folks were instrumental in the starting of ChannelAdvisor, and I'll tell a little story. We had started the company and sold it to a company called Overture, and then we wanted to buy it back. And the company didn't really want us to buy it back, and they said, okay, you can buy it back if you get eBay to invest in you. And they thought that would be kind of this Herculean task we could never get over. So we went and we talked to the guy running eBay marketplaces at the time. His name was Jeff Jordan. We said, Jeff, you know, we would really like to spin out this thing. He said, great, where do I sign up? And that's all it took. And then the Overture guys were like, really? And they called Jeff, and he's like, yeah, we'll invest. And they were like shocked. So that's how ChannelAdvisor wouldn't have existed if it weren't for Jeff Jordan. So join me in inviting Jeff Jordan up, and also Todd Lutwack. Todd, sir. So Jeff is a partner at Andreessen Horowitz. Has everyone heard the name Andreessen? All right, so the guy that essentially invented web browsing. So he has a venture capital firm, and Jeff's a partner, and he's bought us some folks here, and they're going to tell us their version of the future.
Great, thanks very much, Scott. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you. What Scott has asked me to do is tell a little bit about what we're seeing on Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley in terms of innovation, particularly with a focus on e-commerce. So I have a couple of show and tells coming up for the future, but let me dive in. It is very fun being a venture capitalist. I'm coming up on, I think, on just under a year doing it. And it's unbelievably interesting, the kind of people who walk in the door trying to build enormous new businesses out of nothing. It's a form of alchemy. And I mean, it's pretty humbling to hear the ideas and the passion and the commitment. The firm I'm working with is Andreessen Horowitz. It's a little under 3 years old. It has $2.7 billion of capital under management. We just raised a $1.6 billion fund. And we invest almost exclusively in information technologies, typically in Silicon Valley. And we're stage agnostic. And what that means is we'll write checks anywhere from $50,000 up to over $100 million, depending on the needs of the company. And we do that because we have a belief that virtually all the venture capital returns are created by a handful of companies each year, and we want to be in those companies, whether they're just starting. We were a seed investor in Instagram that just sold to Facebook for $1 billion, or are well along. We're in Facebook as well, so that it runs the gamut. There's two different unique approaches Andreessen Horowitz takes to venture capital that I found attractive. One is there's 6 general partners. All of the partners have started or operated businesses. So they've been CEOs, founders. Mark Andreessen, the Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, was the guy who wrote the first mass market browser and founded Netscape. So for example, the second differentiator is we have a large function that works with our companies trying to help them be successful, be it in hiring executive talent, hiring engineers, doing market development, deal networks, marketing and PR. And so they help our portfolio companies out dramatically in helping build their business, which is hard to do. So the quick paid commercial. So we get asked all the time, you're seeing valuations popping up like that Instagram valuation of $1 billion for a pre-revenue company. And people are saying, does that mean we're in a boom, or is this just another bubble? Is this 1999 all over again? And we believe, our thesis is, and hopefully this is right because we're betting a lot of money on it, is that we're actually in a boom. And the boom's being caused by 3 things. First of all, the cost of starting a business, an internet business, has plummeted. It used to be, you needed to raise money just to build a website. Typically now, people come to us with their website and early traction before they've raised any outside money. They use Amazon Web Services. They seamlessly code. It is so much cheaper to start a net business now. Second thing is the programmers are massively more productive because of enhancements in tools, the cloud, a whole bunch of things. So literally, you're seeing real companies started by a couple guys in a garage. Like they used to say happened, it never really happened that way. A lot of the websites you will see are just, are small company endeavors. We're an investor in Pinterest, we'll talk about a little bit later. When we invested, it's a healthy valuation in the hundreds of millions of dollars. There were 8 people working at the company. And so, in a little teeny storefront in Palo Alto. So it's remarkable what can be accomplished on a small scale. Lastly, the market is massive. Compared to 99, the market is something like 50 times larger. If you look at results like Groupon just posted, their sales results, companies have never grown that fast in the history of business, but with an enormous installed base of net users and now mobile users, they can grow that fast. So what we're seeing now is companies can come out of nowhere and just explode onto the scene and build big, meaningful businesses in a year or two. And it's we're very bullish on the potential for technology and continued innovation because of these three trends. So as a result, we have a thesis at the firm that Mark Andreessen coined, software eats the world. And traditional businesses are just being chewed up by these three trends that you're seeing. So some obvious ones are in the media, books, movies, and music. So books, you used to actually buy books from bookstores. Increasingly now, that's gone all digital. The book is disappearing. Book publishers are trying to be disintermediated. So that's an example. Remember when you used to buy music in an actual physical music store like Tower Records? Now, Apple is the largest distributor of music in the world. Movies, you have Netflix started with sending DVDs. Now the primary method, they stream movies. So Blockbuster's gone. So that's an example, the obvious examples. But we're seeing software eating other categories all over the place. We have an investment in a company that's trying to attack textbook publishers. A textbook should not cost $150, whatever it is. So No is using software to digitize textbooks and distribute them at a fraction of the cost. We have an investment in Airbnb, which is trying to use software basically to eat the hotel business. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We have an investment in a company called Lightro that's doing some really sophisticated things with light fields to reinvent the camera business and change photography. And it's a huge software challenge, and they're taking it on. So we believe that software will continue to enable companies to come and just eat up traditional businesses like you guys are in the process of doing to most of physical retail in America. So some emerging trends we're seeing, particularly with an emphasis on commerce. The three we'd highlight here are social, mobile, and commerce. So a couple sub-themes on it. We'll talk about these one at a time. One is next generation social. Social's moving beyond Facebook. We want to talk about that a little bit. Curated commerce is interesting. Scott's Facebook demo is a form of curation, but we're really seeing curation come of age on the net. Collaborative consumption is an amazing phenomenon. People have enormous amounts of assets like homes and cars that typically are underutilized, and collaborative consumption lets them earn livings by offering those to others. Payments innovation, near and dear to my heart. I also manage PayPal. There's some fascinating things happening there. And then mobile, we think, has just begun. And there's going to be big, important companies built solely on a mobile platform. So talking next generation social, it used to be that when you look at social, all you cared about was traffic or page views. Increasingly, though, social is all about engagement. One of the things that made Pinterest really interesting to us is the people who were using it voraciously. They were, just on it all the time. The key measures you talk to these companies about are daily active users, how many sessions per day, the length of the sessions, and increasingly there are actions associated with them, like pins or tweets, retweets, likes, things like that. So we're seeing a real evolution in social. So we have two people on stage who would like to talk about what they're doing in the social realm. The first is Raj Dadada of Bloomreach. So.
You want to talk about Pinterest? All right. Well, thank you guys for having us here. My name is Raj Dadada. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bloomreach, and we encourage you to go to bloomreach.com for a little bit more information. The fundamental mission statement of Bloomreach was to think about a different kind of web. When Mark Andreessen wrote the first web browser, the web was a whole lot smaller. And today, 90% of the data was created in the last 2 years. A lot of the web just never gets found. In fact, based on our data, we see that only 25% of web pages even get a single visit from a human being over the course of a month. And of course, the web changes all the time. And so you get 40% product churn, you get content churn, and Google reports that 16% of what people search for every day is net new. So in this insane, ever-changing web, what do you do as a web page if you want to get found? Because the probability is, if you're not doing something significant, you're not going to get found. And we founded Bloomreach to solve that problem and built an engine we call the Bloomreach Web Relevance Engine. The Bloomreach Web Relevance Engine, if I were to summarize it in a nutshell, is an engine that crawls the web, much like Google does, figures out all the demand on the web, then will algorithmically analyze your own website and figure out the content you should have on your website versus the content you do have on your website. And then it will dynamically generate that content to either attract more demand, acquire traffic, or help convert your traffic. The technology is built by a team of about 40 machine learning scientists in the Bay Area, mostly ex-Google engineers, and is now live on some very large brands, people like Crate & Barrel and Williams-Sonoma and Drugstore.com and Buy.com and Neiman Marcus and tens of others, and manifests ultimately as these three products. The Bloom Search product, which I'm going to give you a quick demo of, you plug into the cloud, you plug into the Bloomreach system in the cloud, the dynamic web generation takes place, and you receive 90% more traffic from search engines over 12 months. The Bloom Lift product, you plug into the cloud, and it will optimize the conversion rate on your ad campaigns by improving them by about 20% upon plugging in. And finally, the Bloom Social product, which is all about delivering engaging social experiences, plugging into Pinterest, plugging into Facebook, on your website itself, all dynamically generated and all powered by a set of machine learning algorithms. So I'm just going to give you one simple example of one use case for the Bloom Search product. This is a page on the Williams-Sonoma website. It's an example of a non-stick cast iron grill pan. And if you look at this page, imagine that a consumer was interested in cooking steak on a Staub grill pan. Sounds like a reasonable thing for them to be looking for on Google and land on this great page. The problem is that there's a photo of a steak, but the word steak is missing from this page. Well, the Web Relevance Engine would have gone out, figured that out, said, hey, this would be a great landing page for somebody looking for cooking steak on a Staub grill pan, but unfortunately, the content and the word steak is missing. It will have figured that out, and the result is, of course, without Bloomreach, this page will never be discovered on the front page of Google. As a result of the Web Relevance Engine, we will add a system of widgets at the bottom of the page that insert the phrase steak into the text, and the next time Google comes to this page, it has an understanding that this page indeed would be a good page for somebody looking for cooking steak on a Staub grill pan. But sometimes what we will find is that by adding this content into the page, which is pulled dynamically from other sections of your own site, it's not enough. You sometimes need to create a net new page by itself. And so we have a product called Thematic Pages that's live on all of these merchants, and it will figure out the pages you should have on your website versus the pages you do have on your website, and it will dynamically assemble that page to attract more demand from a search engine. So I'll just leave you with that use case. I encourage you to go to bloomreach.com. We have a couple of folks in the audience. Feel free to email John and Dan right up here in the front, john@bloomreach.com, and they'll tell you more.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Philippe Engelbrecht. If I wobble a little bit on stage, that's because I had a kiteboarding accident this past Saturday. When I'm not kiteboarding, I run partnerships at Rockmelt. Rockmelt is a new browser. We've been available to the public for about a year now. And obviously, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what makes Rockmelt so special, but more importantly, I want to show to you how we can make online commerce and social commerce in particular work really well on a browser. So first of all, a little bit of history. If you look at the browser space over the last 20 years, not much has really changed. It's still very much based around navigation, and so obviously we want to change that. And so if you do the comparison, is like the look and feel of Mosaic back in '94 is still what you would find in the browser today. Nevertheless, internet users have changed in the meantime, and they've changed a lot. And so that's where we come in as a browser. Rockmelt is built for how people actually use the web today. And so I should point out that we're also the first browser through which you have to log into. And we use Facebook Connect to log into RockMelt. So that means that everybody who uses RockMelt is logged in with a mother load of permissions and settings. And so that allows us to do things such as Facebook notifications in the browser and inject concepts of share, communications, and friends. So an example would be Facebook Chat. When we first launched Facebook Chat in the browser as opposed to just facebook.com, we saw on average 1 chat per user per day. Nowadays, we see about 6 to 7 chats per user per day on average. So that works really well. The other thing that we notice is that most people have about 5 to 6 websites that they visit on a daily basis, often multiple times a day. So rather than forcing those people to navigate to those sites over and over again, we build some of that core functionality within the browser. And then we add push notifications for alerts or important updates to it. So an example of that would be Twitter. Rather than navigating to twitter.com or a separate Twitter client to see my Twitter stream or check my ad messages or do my direct messages, it's all part of the browser. And we see great engagement on that. In general, I would say that RockMelt is probably one of the most engaging pieces of software you'll find on the web. People use us on average 7 hours a day. So that's probably more than most of us get to sleep at night. It's about twice the time as the average American spends on television or watches television every day. And so don't take my word for it. This is kind of our recent growth. This slide is awfully wrong. I had to make it 2 weeks ago for this presentation. So we're currently on a trajectory of about 2.5 million new users a month. To put that a little bit in perspective, those are Pinterest-like numbers. So when Scott told you a few minutes ago that Pinterest came out of nowhere, then in many ways, like the opportunity for us to present here is giving you a fair heads up of what's coming next. And so I'll give you a quick example of why it works so well. And I'll use a content site. It's actually a humor site with about 50 million unique visitors to prove the point. And so if I look at that website's Google Analytics, they will have about 5 million daily unique visitors, and we'll have about 50 million unique visitors. So the ratio of DAUs over MAUs, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is roughly 10%. People who have the website part of their RockMelt browser, and as an FYI, that's as simple as an RSS feed with the push notifications, engage with the site about 4 times more. We have a DAU of 37%. So that's really cool. And every user will go to the originating site about 4 times a day. So that's even better. And they're quality users. Quality users in terms of time spent on site and page views per visit. Now, if that wasn't enough, because that user is logged into Facebook, any of his or her actions are also published to Facebook, whether it's the ticker, the newsfeed, the timeline. And that spawns off a ripple effect of that person's friend also checking out the website. On average, for 4 referrals, they'll get an additional 3 referrals. So we amplify traffic for this particular content site with a factor of near 2. So that's really good. Now, you might wonder, well, what does this have to do with commerce? Well, we've just, as of last week, launched a version of RockMelt that is highly, highly optimized for commerce. And we're starting with daily deals. So we integrate daily deals from about 200 sites, and rather than relying on that one email that goes out every morning, they now have the push notifications in the browser. Next month, we'll add things such as couponing, price comparison, and we'll flesh it out as time goes by. More importantly, the whole concept of social reading or sharing to Facebook by default will be reestablished for commerce. So now I get to see what my friends are shopping for, what they've been looking at, and we believe that just like we did it for content, we can amplify traffic, and hopefully much more than that, we can also amplify sales at the same time. So that's coming out. I don't have slides on it. We also have a version of RockMelt for tablets coming out that will be optimized for commerce in the sense that we can turn basic keyword searches into beautiful presentations of products and brands. We've signed up the first pilot partners. I think we can welcome a few more. So if anybody has interest to talk to me, I'll be the guy standing on one leg or sitting in a wheelchair. And with that, I hand it over to my friends at Jimmy. Sorry.
Wheeled in on a wheelchair. Just scared the life out of us. There we go. He really wheeled himself in a wheelchair today, so we do appreciate his coming. Another trend we wanted to talk about is in curated commerce. At a high level, there's two things we see that are new going on in commerce. I mean, the first stage of commerce online was really distributing other people's products. I mean, think Amazon. So increasingly, we're seeing two things. One is people are starting to self-source and build brands online, direct online, bypassing the physical world. Companies like Bonobos or Shoe Dazzle are examples of these. They're attacking the value chain, and I think increasingly you'll see fewer new brands start in physical retail, and you'll see them migrate online. The second thing we're seeing is a lot of curated commerce. Things like Fab or Gilt, again, Shoe Dazzle, where there's a strong editorial point of view on what is shown. I mean, I don't know how many people in here use Fab. Let's talk about Fab, for example. It's a site that curates things that are high design. Anything that has high design integrity will be distributed by Fab. So their key distribution mechanism is a daily email. The email is pure content. It is so interesting to see what is being, what Fab has put on their homepage that day. It changes every day, and it's one of the fastest growing e-commerce companies we've ever seen. It actually started as a social network targeting the gay community. Middle of last year, it came to the conclusion that wasn't working as well as they wanted, and they wanted to do what in Silicon Valley is called a pivot, which is change your model. They launched in the summer of 2011. They exited the year on a $50 million revenue run rate, and they're targeting $100 million for this year, which will be in their 18th month as a commerce company. So just absolutely explosive growth, and increasingly their customers are coming from repeat customers. 2/3 of their sales come from repeat. Over 1/3 of their sales come from mobile, because when the email is released at 8 o'clock at Pacific Standard Time, a lot of the supply on there is of limited quantity, so people are accessing it with whatever they have. So this curation phenomenon we think is a big deal. Another example of a company, this one's building their own product, is Dollar Shave Club. This is an example of people attacking big, entrenched, expensive distribution channels using the net as a much more efficient distribution mechanism. And this company, we're proud to be an investor, got notoriety from a viral video posted by the founder that we want to demo for you here.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are great. Each razor has stainless steel blades and alligator lubricated tip and a fitted head. It's so gentle and topical. Did you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? Now you can go to Roger Federer. I'm good at this. Do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, flashlight, back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had one blade and more. Stop paying for shit you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. All 100 are going to ship right to you. We're also making a new job. Alejandro, what were you doing last month? What are you doing now? You know better. This trend beats that. Stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
Yep. It's a very cute video. It is also massively effective marketing because it's been seen millions of times. It went viral millions of times on YouTube. And the founder couldn't be here tonight because he's in New York. He was nominated for Viral Video of the Year, and that award ceremony is this evening. But it's an example of that kind of e-commerce company that's just collapsing supply chains and using the distribution of the net to bring incredible deals to consumers. Let's go on there. Next trend, collaborative consumption. This one's really exciting. For me, I was an early eBay employee. I joined in 1999. And I loved eBay. I managed the eBay North America for years. First time I heard of Airbnb, I thought, frankly, it was the stupidest idea I've ever heard at. The concept is offer strangers an opportunity to stay in rooms of your house, and you get paid for that. And I'm like, I don't want to stay in a stranger's house. So I thought it was silly. I heard the founder presented about a little over a year ago at an investor conference. And it was eBay all over again. It's economic empowerment. It's community driven. The community took a quaint little concept and expanded it dramatically. Airbnb right now has booked over 5 million room nights, over 4 million of which happened just last year. So again, just explosive growth. You get incredible deals and incredible distribution of great places to stay around the world. So it's this concept of collaborative consumption is a real concept. These people, Airbnb is doing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of room nights already. Payments innovation. There is a land grab going on trying to figure out payments, both online as well as offline. I mean, in the offline world, there's, cellular companies are competing with retailers, competing with Google, competing with, Amazon. It's really complicated. There's some interesting things happening online, and one we would like to platform right now is Jumio. So.
I don't think we need that.
Oh, you don't need that. Okay, go. That's right. You're doing a demo.
My name is Patrick Griffin, and this is Bjorn Evers, and we are Jumio. Jumio is a computer vision company. We build products that use the camera on mobile phones and laptops to analyze, authenticate, and validate data. I would say our core products are really in two areas. We have a payments vertical in our company, and we have a security, identity, KYC vertical in our company. As Bjorn pulls up the demo, I can get into a little bit of what our special sauce is and what exactly a computer vision company is. So we built a technology that is called OCR, which is optical character recognition. You've probably seen it. It's been around for about five years or so. I think Chase has a technology very similar to that uses OCR technology to scan checks. What we've built is based on OCR, but I would say it's OCR on steroids. We actually are starting with a material science patent to analyze the way that light hits the object that's held in front of a camera, to analyze the material of that object. We're also analyzing the shadows cast by the embossed writing on the card, all in an effort to validate that there actually is a card being presented to the camera and that it's not, say, a printout of a card.
Thanks, Patrick. So, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm going to do a demo here first with the NetSwipe product, which is then the credit card. So it's basically, it's pretty simple. You open up, can you see that? So this is then going to be integrated into the payment page. And now we're connecting. Hopefully the Wi-Fi here works. Yeah, hello, you can see me. So I'm just holding up the credit card here. And yeah, basically what we did there was recognize that it's a valid credit card and also the number. I'm not going to type in the actual CVV now. So this payment's going to fail, but you get the idea how it's going to work, right?
But I think the idea of what we're trying to do is we're trying to marry the offline world, the ease of credit card use in the offline world, in the physical point of sale environment, to the online world. So we're trying to make it as easy to buy things online as it is offline.
Yeah, so I mean, basically the use case could be if you go to Starbucks today, you just swipe your credit card, you don't show your ID. So we can basically do the same where you swipe your credit card for low amounts, but if it's larger amounts, you could then do the ID scan as well to make sure that it's the owner of the credit card. So I'm going to show that now. Net verify. Same principle. And that's me, but this is not my ID. This is Todd. And there we go. Thank you, Todd, for using that. And then we can show you the result of that. So that's the scan of Todd, and all this information is then returned via an API, and it takes about 5 seconds.
So that's Jumio, and we encourage you to take a look at our website, jumio.com, and we look forward to speaking with you guys at the cocktail party.
Yeah, and we also have a mobile product, which I can't demo here, but
right.
Feel free to reach out to us, and we can show that.
Yeah, I certainly think that the mobile product, the use case on the mobile product is, what we can do to alleviate consumer checkout friction is enormous, and you can really get a sense of that by checking out our mobile demo. So come up to us, and we'll be happy to show it to you.
Thank you.
Jumio is a European-based company, and it already is powering a number of retailers, particularly in high-risk categories where the verification gets incredibly important. So it's an exciting company. Last, mobile is here to stay. So as I manage both eBay and PayPal, both companies lose hundreds of millions of dollars every year to fraud. Fraudsters, organized crime, typically out of Eastern Europe, actively targeting the money in the session. As commerce goes mobile and your phone becomes your wallet, the same thing will be happening to your phone. People will be targeting it, trying to take money out. So we have a investment in a company called Lookout Mobile Security that provides fraud protection right now for Android devices that effectively shuts down the ability of third parties to scam your phones. And the number of incidents that are happening on the Android ecosystem are exploding. So if you have an Android phone, I'd strongly suggest you download Lookout. With that, I hope you found that interesting, a quick overview of what some of the things we're seeing in Silicon Valley, and I'd like to introduce two of my colleagues who are going to work at Andreessen Horowitz. Todd Lutwig and Eugen have a little thing to do.
Hello, everyone. This isn't on yet. If there's one thing I know from these ChannelAdvisor summits, that I've been to a lot of them, people love giveaways. So there's a couple companies that Andreessen Horowitz has invested in that have technology and some great products, and we're going to go ahead and give some of them away. First one of them is going to be a Litro. Litro is a new technology, I think Jeff mentioned it before, that uses light in a new way. Actually allows you to take a picture and then actually focus it afterwards. So we will give, so someone want to answer a quick question, and then I will determine if you win the Litro. Anyone? Answer a question? There you go. You'll answer a question. It does have to be the right answer. So earlier today, we talked about Andreessen Horowitz. Mark Andreessen was the founder of what company?
Oh, it was the internet one. It was, they did Mosaic or something. That was the product, wasn't it?
Mosaic was
that counts.
That was the product, right?
Yeah, that was the name of the browser originally, yeah.
Done. One Litro. There you go. And this is Eugen. If you have any questions regarding anything in the Andreessen Horowitz portfolio, you could walk up and ask Eugen or I. The second question, anyone? Here, this gentleman right here. Question. A browser was mentioned during this presentation. Is a social browser. The name of that browser is?
Don't know.
Rockmelt?
Rockmelt it is.
Yeah.
And here's a jawbone. Enjoy. Scott, back to you.
Thanks. Todd's actually been at every Catalyst event. So, and we thought we would really miss him when he left eBay, but he's back. We just can't shake him. So thanks to the team here. Thanks for Jeff for bringing along all these interesting startups. We have a cocktail reception after this that's sponsored by Amazon Services. Round of applause to those guys for doing that. And that is actually in this room over here, but you can't go through those doors, so you have to exit those doors and go over there. Thanks, and we'll see you at 8:30 tomorrow for our conversation with Sebastian Gunningham at Amazon Services.